All right, so just for today, this is a CSC230 webinar for the online course for website design. My name is Scott Cordell. We're going to cover lesson 1. So let me get to the course here. If you do have questions throughout, please remember, post the questions and we'll answer them as we go. We're going to look at assignment 1 specifically. We're going to pick up after you have made your folders, taken a screenshot, you have sent me your connection information so that I am in the process now of building accounts. And we're going to pick up right with tutorial 1. Specifically, we're going to pick up in the middle of the chapter at about page 12. For this tutorial, these are tutorials that are built into the book, so each one of the chapters in this book are actually called a tutorial. If you'll notice at the top of each of your pages in chapter 1, it actually says tutorial 1, getting started with HTML. So what we're going to do is pick up right here with following all the steps. It says to copy tutorial.01 tutorial folder from your student data files and paste them into your assignment 1 folder. So I will go ahead and do that. This is my screen from the previous step, where I ask you to go ahead and make a web structure and keep up with some files as we go. This will be week 1, week 2 right there, week 3, so every assignment is going to be based on the week number. Earlier in the quarter, hopefully you read the message that said something to the effect of go get the data files. If not, that's back in the course information. Let me get, just to show you here, under the syllabus and important course documents, here are the student data files down here at the bottom that has instructions on how to go get these and put them where you need to. So I'm going to back up a step here. Let me get back to the assignment. And what we're going to talk about is copying this over. So I made my folders like this, one folder for each week. I also have the final and midterm for later, and then the student data file. Inside of here, these are organized according to chapters as well. So it said to go to tutorial.01 and inside the tutorial folder to grab all of that. So what I'm going to do is actually back up a step, copy my tutorial folder, and then go back to my structure here to where assignment 1 is and paste the whole thing in there all at once instead of trying to move individual files or individual pieces of files. So my tutorial folder now has a logo that is a PNG image. There's a JPS style that says it's a cascading style sheet. And then there's a modernizer file that's a JavaScript. And for every one of these exercises, to make it work as smoothly as it can with each of the browsers, this modernizer file is included with everything. We're not going to modify the file, not this one. We'll just use it for everything. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and go back to the book on page 12. It says have them all in my assignment folder, and your file should be saved as JProps. I apologize. I just noticed that is a mistype. So what we're doing is the first part wants us to open up an editor. I'm sorry, I should have gone over that here. Start your text editor, opening a blank document, and then type this in. For this course, I strongly suggest that on the VDI you use Notepad+. We've loaded it for you here. It's just right there. When it starts up, you may occasionally get a warning or an error that says something about downloaded files. Then do you want to update? Since this is a managed system, our virtual desktop interface, VDI, is a managed system, you don't have the rights to install or update or do anything else. So for now, if it comes up, hit cancel or ignore. And we're just going to pick up here, typing what the book says. Now I'm going to shove my screen over here to the side and do the same thing here so we can look at the book and the instructions at the same time. For those of you that were having trouble getting the book, I am on a website called Cengage Brain. And sorry, yeah, let me get to the top. And it takes me to Cengage Learning. But Cengage is the publisher for our book, and they have an e-book site. And as you can see, I can actually read everything in the book straight from here. It's usually about half to maybe a third of the cost. So it may be a nice, cheaper way of doing the book. However, remember it's an e-book. You can't print everything, and you can't have it always with you unless you have a web connection. So a little bit of a downside, but you sort of get used to it eventually. So here's what it says. On step 2, we're going to press the enter key after each one of these lines, and we're going to type in this code. One additional benefit of the ebook, and let's see if it'll let me do it this time. Sometimes, and it's going to give me a little bit of trouble here, I might be able to copy and paste. What do you know? Close. Not quite right, but not bad either. Let me and there. So if you haven't picked up your book yet, an ebook might be an option for you. I still prefer printed books when I can get them, just because I like to lay it out and have it in front of me and touch it, take notes on it. So I'm getting to the ebook place, and I've been doing technology for 25 years. So I still have to make myself adapt to new technology every now and then, and this is one of them. So once we have this saved, it says to save the file as jprop.htm in my tutorial folder I just copied. So I'll do File, Save As. I'm going to go to my 230 folder here. There's my assignment 1 for this week. There's my tutorial. And I'm going to call this, just like they said, jprop. The difference is, notice it's going to try to save it as a text file. Now if I call it .htm like the book says, unfortunately Notepad will probably save it as jprop.htm, and then because I said it's a text file, it'll probably add to the end .txt. So instead what I'm going to do is this. Call it the right name, and in the types here, change it to hypertext. And then it adds HTML. Now before you try to get all concerned about this, you can either call the file HTML or HTML. The main thing is that you're consistent. Since I'm using Notepad+, I'm going to let it add the L. It really doesn't matter. Our server either way, and most other servers will interchange those. So here's the big difference. We use HTML on, for the most part, older servers, Windows servers specifically. Windows, years ago, you could have a file name that was 8 characters long and then a dot, and would only let you have 3 characters after the dot. In fact, the pattern became known as the 8.3 naming convention, 8 characters, a dot, and then 3 more characters. Linux and Unix systems never had that limitation, so they could actually put HTML for hypertext markup language. Windows could not. For that reason, a lot of folks still stick to that pattern to where they do HTML on a Linux server and they do HTM on a Windows. At this point in our history, Windows can take either one. They've been able to take either one at least since Windows Vista, probably a little bit sooner than that, or older than that. So I'm going to use the name they're calling it right here. Just keep the L, hit save. I can see that the name is here on the tab, and then all of this is color-coded. So it's syntax highlighted, meaning words that are specific to HTML will have a different color to them. And that's just one of the benefits you get with Notepad+. So we've got it saved in the right place. We've got the first part in. That gets us past this part right here, page 13. And then there's a few other things they want you to do, but I want to go ahead and do the first one here. And no, this recording will not take us all the way through. I don't want you to have to, I don't want to lead you through every single step, but I definitely want you to get started well. So what it wants us to do is go here in the head section and put in the title, the JProp shop. And again, you can say it says here. You're going to go here and put the space bar, put that in. I'm just going to drop in here, press enter, and because they've indented it, I'll press tab. And I'm going to put a title tag here. Notice it turns blue when I finish it. There's the JProp shop. And again, in Notepad+, I know I can click on title. It shows me where it started or ended, or I can click the beginning of a tag, and it will show me where the matching one is, if I spelled it right. So the title is right here. And now we're going to go ahead and save and look at your page for the first time. A couple of ways to do this. I can go back here to my file where I'm in my 230 folder, assignment 1 tutorial. Here's the file I'm working on right now. I can double click it. It's listed as an HTML document and will open up in whatever my default browser browser is. And that's it. That's all I've got. It's showing me I'm opening the right file, nothing here on the page, and one simple reason. Look back at our file here. The body is what shows up in this blank white area. The head is mostly never seen, except for one part, the title, which shows up right here on this tab. So that's one way to view it. Another way, actually, let me go ahead and close all those. Another way you can do this is built into Notepad+. There is a run command, and if you'll notice, there's Firefox, IE, Chrome, Safari. Unfortunately, on the VDI system, Firefox does not work, neither does Chrome, neither does Safari, at least not from these shortcuts. You can always go and open the browser, type in the path, and it'll work. But IE does. So I can click Launch in IE right here. Opens up just like we saw it before, and again, I can see the title there. Now, this is why I prefer this particular method. I usually prefer the run method. What I can do is move this over to the side, and if I come over here and make a change, such as, I don't know who Jay is, but let's say I just bought his prop shop, so it now just became the Scott prop shop. I'm going to go ahead and save that, and instead of me going back to run and launch, I can actually come over here to the page I was just looking at before I made these changes. It still says JProp, and I can refresh that, and now I can see my change instantly. Now you're going to use this pattern a lot through this course, to where you go to the editor, you type in some code or you edit some code, you make changes. So step 1 is create or edit something. Step 2 is you save it wherever you're supposed to have it saved, and then come over here to an editor, and step 3 is just view it. If everything looks right, then you go on to the next step, which is again edit, then save, and then view. I'm going to go ahead and change this back because it's not my shop, it's JProp shop. And again, made a change, save it, come back over here, view it. One thing you do need to be careful of. It is very easy for you to lose track of windows that you have open. So you'll come over here and run it and make some kind of change somewhere, but then you forgot if it was open or not, and you run it. And before you know it, you've got 3 of the same ones open, and you don't know which one is the latest, greatest one that you've been working with. My advice in that situation is, first of all, never open another one. Just have one open and always just refresh it. But if you do find this, it is much easier, instead of trying to figure out which one is the right one, it's much easier to close them all, make sure you've got none of these open, then go back to run, launch again, and you're back to normal. And again, on our sides, you can, since this is Windows 7, you can have your editor here, your page actually showing over here. Now I do want to jump forward just a little bit, because there is a piece way out here on page 28 where you're actually going to type in stuff that fits in the body. And let me get to the right one here. All right, so you're going to end up typing this code. And just for the recording here, let me make this a little bit bigger. Notice they have other code that's in black, some that's in red. For this particular step, you're adding all the code that's in red. Now the reason they do this is to make it easier. You're going to be building this code a piece at a time. They're not going to teach you how to write the code from the first line to the second line to the third line and just hope that you get it all. They're building it, just like we're doing here, as a shell of here's how you get started, and then eventually they will have you add in other pieces, like so, and several others. So the red part that I'm going to put in right now is this, the JProp shop, that's an H1 type and an H2 type. Now before we do that, let's talk a little bit about these tags. And again, HTML is all about hypertext markup language, and the markup is in the form of tags. Here's the HTML tag, there's the header, here's a body one, title out here. Notice that almost all tags, but not all, the ones we're using, have a word inside of these open and close braces, and to close that one, to close off that tag, I have one that looks just like it, except it has this one little mark here, that slash. So I have an open body tag, and then when I have a slash like this, it's the closing body. Same thing here, that's a closing header. Since I've clicked on it in Notepad+, there's my beginning header. Everything between these tags is a header, or in this case, everything between these body tags, open and close, are the tags that actually put something on the web page. Everything within HTML is, well, part of the HTML document. So right now I've only got a title, and under this title is going to show up on that tab. I've added the body here, and I'm going to come back and push this back over to the side for a moment. What I want to do is add just this H1 and H2. Notice the H1 starts on one line, and then here's the closing H1, and H1 is a headline. And this comes from old newspaper type stuff. When you had a big headline, a smaller headline, there are 6 different H tags, H1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. H1 is the biggest, and so we put that usually for the whatever the most important thing is on the page. Notice I'm closing it, and then we start the H2. Okay, and I just misspelled things horribly, but we'll get that fixed. There is a spell check in this. Sometimes it's right, sometimes it's not, but this time, yeah, it found that one pretty well. So to follow our pattern we talked up earlier, I've saved this, or I'm sorry, I've edited this. I'm going to just save it and then go find the page where I had it open and just refresh and end up finally with something in the document. So this goes back to what we were talking about just a few moments ago. This stuff here in the body is what's going to show up on the actual page that the user sees. The only thing in the head that you're going to see on the page ever is just the title, and it's up here. Now I will go ahead and admit I have skipped a lot from pages 14 up to 28 at this point. There are several other things. We didn't add any comments up here. We didn't mark any other piece. We left out a lot of these other tags like header. There's also article and footer and some other things. But I wanted to stop here at this point and see if we have any questions. I'm going to stop the recording here for just a minute and actually stop it and let it start encoding, post it later to the class. But this is what you do to get started with this exercise. Just a real quick thing on the lesson. This is the tutorial we're talking about. To create your first web page from scratch, same thing. Go to Notepad, start a new document, put it in the same folder, and I want you to create something like this, except I don't want it to say Alpha Student. I want it to have your name. Put the right quarter in here as well. This is an old screenshot, but it looks something like this. So here's what you're going to end up with. Here's what I want you to type. Type this in, save it as index.html, or again, you can do HTML, and that goes into your assignment 1 folder as well, into here with your folders. So you'll have tutorial, your folders picture. You'll have this other document here called index.html, and that's it for this one. Now it's a lot of work. I know I just said that's it like it was real simple. No, it's going to take some work. Like I said, let me stop the recording here and we'll see what kind of questions we have.